Hey, welcome back to 65 Drums. My name is Justin. Today I want to cover a drum plugin called VSDS-X. It's made by Aly James Lab and stands for Virtual Simmons Drum System Extended VST. I bought this plugin a few months back when I was working on my History of Electronic Drums documentary series. I was using it in the series to demonstrate how old electronic drum brains from the 1980s worked. But I feel like this excellent plugin deserves a dedicated video of its own because it's actually really good and worth checking out if you're into this type of sound. This is a virtual drum brain that lives on your computer. It emulates old Simmons SDS-1, 5, and 7 drum brains from the 1980s, and even expands a little bit on what those could do. It saves you a lot of money because to buy one off of eBay is expensive if you can even find one in the first place. And yes, you could just download a few one-shot samples of a couple of Simmons snare and kick sounds off the internet, but that's pretty limiting. Now remember, these old drum brains were actually synthesizers for drummers. A static recording of a snare won't actually give you any control over sculpting the sound. With this plugin, you're recreating that 80s sound from the ground up, and you can change it and mold it at a moment's notice. And now for the nerds, here's a more complicated breakdown of exactly what it's doing, according to the website. The plugin models the analog sound generation, internal circuitry tuning, trigger velocity sensitivity, and other details of the original Simmons drum brains. The hi-hat, cymbal, prom, and clap are a mixture of analog and digital clocks and counters, reading EEPROM memory at variable sample rates that are perfectly emulated in real time. It models the SSM2044 filters, and gives you fine-tuned control over internal control voltages, trigger shapes, and VCA response. It also emulates how the module will react if triggered with pads or a sequencer. MIDI velocity will change the synthesized sound drastically. Alright, so this plugin is pretending very accurately to be an old Simmons drum module. Got it. Throughout this video, I've been using a bunch of very old Simmons, Tama, and Roland pads for this demo. But you don't actually have to use old electronic drum pads at all. I've actually got everything plugged into a Roland TD-30 from 2012. As long as your drum module generates MIDI notes and you can connect it via USB, it'll work with the plugin. When you open this up inside of your DAW, it's pretty easy to poke around and see how it works for the most part. This video isn't a tutorial by any means, by the way, read the manual, but there are a few things that you should know. On the far right of the screen, you have all the different sound controls for the synthesizer, and in the middle you can change which drum or cymbal that you're editing. To see all the tone controls, you'll have to hit that full module switch. Now, it can be a tad intimidating if you've never dealt with this sort of thing. If you don't want to, you don't actually have to mess with all those dials and knobs on the right side of the screen. You actually have a ton of preset kits you can cycle through and see which kind of sound combination that you like. The presets that I kept using over and over again were Genesis 16 and Miami Heat. Some of the presets are very useful, some of them are more experimental, and then there's a whole slew of them that are basically useless. They're there more to demonstrate what kind of sounds this thing can create. The plugin also has a multi-out feature if you want, so each of the drums can be on a separate channel inside of your DAW. You can also load in samples to VSDSX just like a classic Simmons drum brain, but now without needing to have a physical chip. Another really important thing to mention is that reverb is a big part of this type of sound, and the plugin doesn't have reverb included. The sounds don't really come alive until you add a reverb plugin to really bring the sounds to their full potential. You don't have to buy one, there's tons of them that are free online that you can download, and most DAWs actually have a free one included with the program already. This plugin also has huge potential as a layering tool. With something like Superior Drummer 3 as the base, VSDSX running underneath of it really opens up a lot of sonic possibilities. You can use it just to get that standard 80s drum sound, but you can also combine it with more traditional drum plugins to use VSDSX to give the drums more bite or more oomph. So if you can't already tell, I've had a lot of fun playing around with this plugin. It's not something that I'll use every single day, but it's something that's great to have as an extra tool. And that's the video. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in a few.